All right, welcome everybody. Glad you guys are here. We're going to talk about the upcoming change to GitHub Copilot, which is usage-based billing, and what is that? What's happening? What's changing? And how does this impact everybody? Because it is a very, very large impact change. So kind of what does it mean for you? Kind of where were we and that kind of stuff, what we're going to talk about. And then I'm also going to give you guys later on a few tools to help estimate what the cost change is within your organization that you guys are also able to utilize. Real quick, if everybody could be on mute during the call, that would be great. So a little bit about me. I forgot to say host instead of hosts. Well, I guess there are multiple because Copilot is here. But hi, guys. My name is Matt. I'm the guy who's on camera talking to you. That's a picture of me in case you really wanted to see two of me. I'm one of the consultants here at Xebia Microsoft Services. I'm based in the US. For those of you guys who are familiar with the area, I'm based out of Tampa, Florida. I have a very broad background in the IT space. And lately, my focus areas have been on security, application security, mostly focused around GitHub Advanced Security and AI, largely focused around GitHub Copilot and Claude. So we're going to be talking about Copilot today. And what I've actually really been loving doing lately is merging the two together and utilizing AI to enhance an organization's AppSec posture by incorporating agentic tools into SCA and SAST findings for like remediation and those kind of things, and also helping organizations secure themselves with using AI tools. Things like limiting access to resources, making sure you're only utilizing short-lived tokens that are scoped to what the AI tool needs, and those types of things. So kind of both sides of securing on the AI front. It's a lot of fun. So, yeah, and then there's my LinkedIn if you want to, connect outside of this. Let's dive in. So here's the current situation. Is GitHub bills you today in this unit of PRUs, or premium request units. One interaction with the tool is one premium request unit. It costs around 4 cents per premium request unit. But it's a very gratuitous way of billing you, because every interaction is a chat turn. And by that, I mean I, the user, put something in the chat, not a chat turn as in Copilot had a conversation with itself. It could be a cloud agent session. The Copilot cloud agent also incurs GitHub action minutes. That's not changing. But each session there, meaning I type something in the box and tell the cloud agent to go do it, that's one PRU. And then the code review, Copilot code review also counts towards your PRU usage. So, and then there's other things that count towards PRU usage currently right now with agentic workflows and those kind of things. But basically, every interaction from a user to Copilot counts as a PRU. The other thing is that you then have a PRU multiplier. Talk about that in a second. So say, for example, right now, if I make a request to Opus 4.7, it costs me 15 PRUs because it's a 15x multiplier. If I use GPT 5.3 codex, it has a 1x multiplier. So that's kind of how it is right now. And then each license has a different number of PRUs per user. The PRUs are also right now currently assigned on a user level. So for Copilot Business licenses, each user gets 300 PRUs per billing period per month. If you're an enterprise user, you get 1,000 of them. And then you can kind of see over here, you can kind of see like what are the PRU multipliers per model. Auto mode, you get a 10% discount on your PRU usage. So if I'm in auto mode selects me to use GPT 5.4. It costs me 0.9 PRUs for that interaction. It's kind of their way of driving people to utilize auto mode. And the last thing is, I kind of alluded to this, PRU allotment is currently with the user, not the enterprise or organization, however you've got your billing set up. All of these things are changing. So basically everything that you know about how Copilot is being billed to you is changing, which is why this is big. So the new situation looks like this. You're going to pay based on usage. It's based on tokens. It actually aligns closely with what a lot of the other AI providers currently do. But you're paying per token. And GitHub now has this new unit called AI Credits. Each AI credit is 1 cent of billing time per model. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. Individuals get $10 per month of usage. $10 times, you get 100 cents per dollar. You get 1,000 AI credits. The math is a little bit easier now. Pro Plus users get $39 or 3,900 AI credits. And then business and enterprise users will get 1,900 and 3,900 AI credits respectively. So what does this mean is you're actually billed by the token usage now. Each token has a different cost each token has a different cost based on what type of token it is and what model you're using. There's a little bit of a promo period going on right now, by the way, for the next 3 months. So starting in June, your enterprise token or enterprise gets this amount of AI credits that's on screen. Starting in September, it goes to the 1,900 and 3,900 AI credits, respective of business or enterprise. As far as I am aware, there is not a promo period being applied to the individual licenses. It is what it is. Sorry, guys. So as I said, you are now being billed on token usage. Before they actually coined the term usage-based billing, they were actually going to call it token-based billing. And this is what it costs now for usage. So for every 1,000,000 input tokens that I send into Claude Opus 4.7, it costs me $5 worth of AI tokens. And so if I have $39 worth of AI tokens per month, I have now spent $5 worth of those tokens per 1,000,000 tokens being sent into the model. And as I said, input tokens, output tokens, and cache tokens all have a slightly different cost. What does this mean? It means we all now need to become AI engineers. There's a lot of optimization work to do with the way that we use Copilot. There's a lot of decision making that has to happen of, do I need an agent to actually do this? Or is this something that I should do more deterministically? Because everything takes up tokens, right? That's kind of how these models work, is tokens and context. You'll also notice each model on this screenshot has a different cost per model for the tokens, because there is a difference with how the models work. Therefore, there is a difference with how much the models cost. Haiku is a very versatile model. It's a good implementer. It's a good explainer. It's not as good at the analytical side, for example, which is where like an Opus model would come in, and a Sonnet model kind of sits in between the two of them, for those familiar with the Anthropic line. And so using the right model for the right job makes a big impact. I am going to put a link in the chat here for you guys that shows the updated pricing table for the cost per million tokens per models that are currently available. Feel free to keep that handy if you would like to. So you'll notice, again, Haiku, it's a great model to use if you don't need to do a lot of analytical stuff. Sonnet is the model that was actually default for a while for the cloud agent. Very versatile model. It's kind of a nice middle ground between Opus, which is super powerful and analytical, and Haiku, which is more of a great implementer but not as analytical. And then Opus, the big dog, costs a lot of money. So, you know, just pay attention to that. So GitHub has actually been exposing this to us for a while now, the token usage. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what the context window usage looks like. And I'm going to do that by hopefully sharing the right screen here. This one? Yeah, there we go. All right. Hardest part of doing demos is sharing the right screen, promise. So I have here the Copilot CLI. And on my screen, you can see here I currently have Opus 4.7 selected. I am using 0% of my context window, which is great. One thing in here is you'll see here it's still giving me the PRU stuff. That's going to change June 1st. There will be a Copilot CLI update that'll reflect that. But I can enable auto mode. I can go to a different model if I want. It doesn't really matter in this case. So I'll just go to auto mode, and I'm just going to ask it. What vulnerabilities exist in the user's controller? I know this is a very vulnerable repository because I wrote it, and I intentionally put vulnerabilities into it, so it's going to return things. Don't freak out. It's fine. I haven't even added anything to my context window yet, and I'm already being told I'm utilizing 5% of the total context window here. Context window with AI usage is the amount of tokens you can have sent into the model at a time before you basically start losing your older context. So what's going to eventually happen is the context window is going to expand. You are going to be allowed to utilize more and more tokens with these models. That's part of why this change is happening, is to allow for larger context windows versus having to narrow things down. So, okay, cool. It chose GPT 5.3 Codex, which is it's an OpenAI model. That's great. Hey, look, there's a lot of SQL injection things and all that. I don't really care at this point. What I care about is this right here. So what I can see here is that request used 1 PRU. It utilized 39,000 tokens of input and 378 output tokens. So the new way that I would be billed is based on those usage rates in the table per million tokens. And so you can then calculate how many AI credits did I just consume with making that one request. And that's where things get a little bit big, because now if I send it this massive prompt of all these things to do at once, I'm giving it more input tokens. Likewise, if I'm having the model generate a whole bunch of output for me, I'm going to get a whole bunch more output tokens. And that's the difference. Typically, input tokens are going to cost less than output tokens because input tokens are, I'm providing it to the model, and the model then has to process it. So there is processing associated with it. The output tokens are what the model's generating. So the model actually had to do work to send them back to you. And then you can see here it also cached 18.7 K tokens here. So what it's able to do for that is kind of hold on to those in the case of like keeping the conversation going. It's kind of holding on to that context a little bit better. And again, like the token count changes a little bit with model usage, but models don't necessarily dictate how many tokens you're going to be using. Back to slides. Come on, PowerPoint. There we go. Great. So what's important to know is what are you doing usage-wise as a user? Because they add up pretty quick, right? I mean, that one small request added up to a lot of tokens. I mean, you can see here, this is one of my colleagues actually wrote a VS Code extension for understanding what your token usage is. I'll drop a link to that in the chat as well. It's on the VS Code Marketplace. And it really does add up quickly. And that's a problem because this adds up a lot quicker than PRUs adding up. So for example, in this case, he used 21.4 million tokens in one day and 81.7 tokens in the last 30 days. That's a lot. The average tokens per session was 2.7 million in the one day, 1.1 million over 30 days. You kind of start developing those statistics, and then it becomes a bit more of a usage optimization problem. I also want to demonstrate a little bit. Actually, I can show you guys that extension really quick. Okay, here we are. I'm going to share my VS Code window. So here's the extension. This is actually my usage. So today, just alone today, I have used 5.2 million tokens. Out of that, only 425,000 of them have been me interacting with the model. So the rest of it is all service overhead. That means going and grabbing context for processing what I'm asking the AI to do, utilizing MCP servers, reasoning, caching, etc. All of that is kind of an overhead thing. And yeah, you end up paying for that now. That's just today. You can also see usage by editor. I'm primarily in the Copilot CLI today, but I've spent a bit of time in the last 30 days in Claude Code. I've spent some time in VS Code and VS Code Insider, so I kind of bounce between both. You can see what my model usage selection is. This hasn't refreshed yet, but I use a lot of the Claude models. I've been using a lot of Opus models the last couple of days because I've had to do a lot more analytical stuff. You can see I tend to bias a little bit more towards Sonnet 4.6 with my normal usage. It's just my preferred model of choice, but your mileage may vary. And then you can also see environmental impacts, usage analysis, and then a fluency score. How can I improve? This is a bit of a opinionated thing. There's transparency for how it's calculated and what their scoring stuff is. And you can see here, I do a lot more with the customization, workflow integration, prompt engineering, and like more agentic stuff. And I shy away from dedicated tool usage and context engineering. And I kind of just let the AI figure out the context for me half the time. Do a little bit of that, but I can improve there. And then this will also give you steps for how you can maybe improve those customization things, like utilizing instructions and agents.md files for my customization stuff, or utilizing like some of these additional at workspace participant or the code base directive. Same thing with like tooling, maybe using MCP servers or whatever. So it's going to kind of help you in your AI usage. It's a really cool extension. It's actually developed by one of my colleagues. Go check it out. It's free. We don't keep any of your data. It's yours. It's just going out to the publicly available APIs, grabbing it, and doing everything within the extension. So let's talk about how billing is going to change per request. So I ran a couple of really big single prompt research tasks earlier on that vulnerable repository to just ask it to figure out if there's a vulnerability chain that could lead to an exploit. So the first thing that I did is I went to GPT 5.3 codex, the high effort variant of it. So some of them have like different effort variants as well. And here's the pricing for that model right now. So input tokens is $1.75 per million input tokens. I use 3.5 million input tokens on a single prompt. Yes, it's possible. Output tokens, $14 per 1 million output tokens. I used 69,000 output tokens. And then cash tokens is 17.5 cents per 1 million, and I use 2.8 million of them. So one prompt cost me $7.58 with a single interaction. And this used to cost me 1 PRU out of 1,000. Now, there's a lot of optimization that I could have done. There's a lot of agentic things that I did that I didn't have to use an agent for. But this is just showing you an example of how quickly things can add up, right? Remember, you get currently on my license, I get $70 worth of AI credits. So I used 10% roughly of my AI credits for the month on one prompt. Now, on the flip side of that, I ran the same prompt through Opus 4.7 here. I ran the same prompt through Opus 4.7. And my token usage was way different. This was a new chat session, no caching or anything like that. And it cost me $4.11, even though this model has a higher cost for some of your token usage. I think I forgot to update one of those, but it cost me $4.11, not $7 and whatever. However, this would have cost me 15 PRU before. Again, reinforcing, use the right model for the right job. It does make a difference. But no matter how you slice it, this is going to be more expensive to use because you're now paying for your actual utilization of the models. That's the point here. So what else is changing? Well, you're obviously going from PRUs to usage-based billing. You're paying for the tokens that you're using. The cloud agent is going to also go to usage-based billing. And it's going to continue to consume GitHub Actions minutes because it runs on GitHub Actions runners, utilizes time there. The code review agent is going to consume usage-based billing and GitHub Actions minutes because it runs on GitHub Actions runners. So you're going to have that. Code completions and next edit suggestions are going to stay included for free. That includes if you also do the thing where you add a comment to your code and let Copilot's code completions fill it in for you with its suggestions. That stays included for free. All of these things, though, consume AI credits. Chat, CLI, the cloud agent, Spaces, Spark, and third-party code agents that are using Copilot. Also the Copilot SDK, if I recall. There are a couple of other changes. There are no more free models. So before, you had a fallback of 4.1, 4.0, or GPT-5 mini. Those cost you 0 PRUs to use. That's gone. So what does that mean? When you run out of AI credits, you either pay on a consumption basis for the additional AI credits at 1 cent per credit, or if you have budgets in place to just not allow a user to go over a certain amount of AI credit consumption, you cannot use anything that consumes AI credits anymore. You're cut off. And you'll start getting errors that show you that. So if I have no more AI credits and I'm not allowed to consume anymore at the billed price, and I try to do something in chat, it's going to give me an error. Just like it would if you had no PRUs. The other difference is usage-based billing is no longer a user or a per user bucket. It is billed at whatever billing level you have. So it's either going to be billed at the enterprise level or at the organization level, depending on how your licensing is set up. This is a big change. So what does that mean? Because that's, to me, one of the bigger changes in this. So what that means is if I have 100 users on a Copilot Business license, that means I have 100 users with $19 per month in AI credits, which means my enterprise or organization, my billing unit, has 190,000 AI credits to consume across the billing unit. So if I don't put any controls in place, one user consumes 190,000 AI credits and exhausts the pool for the entire billing unit. And then everybody suffers, or the billing unit has to pay more for everybody else's additional AI credits. If I don't allow for any additional purchase and that one user consumes 190,000 AI credits, nobody gets to use Copilot. There are controls being put in place. I'll talk about that in a second to kind of eliminate some of that pain, but that is a big change. Why did they do this? More and more, we are seeing utilities that utilize non-user based things. Agentic workflows are a big one. Agentic workflows right now are tied to a single user's PAT token. That is now going to just consume from the pool of AI credits organically, rather than consume a single user's PRUs. Same thing with anything that GitHub Actions does that utilizes the Copilot SDK or Copilot CLI. Same idea. So that way you're not tied to a user, it's just acting on behalf of the organization, because there are some things that run, say, like on a scheduled basis that aren't triggered by a specific actor. So that's kind of why it's happening that way. And as more and more agentic things start to be spun up, you'll kind of see that don't necessarily apply to a single user. You'll see more of that behavior occur. So here's an example. So if I have 50 users that use half of their available AI credits, and I have 50 users in this example that use 150% of their AI credits, I've consumed my 190,000 AI credits. Not every user used their 1,900 credits per month, though. Some only used 950, some used like 2,850. But the organization is now billed at that single billing level. You're billed for that overall consumption. So you're invoiced at that 190,000 AI credit usage. Currently, each user has a separate set of premium requests. So 50 users use 50% of their premium requests. That would be 150 premium requests apiece. That's great. 50 users try to use 150% of their premium requests. And at that 300 mark, unless you have it set to allow them to purchase more premium requests, as an overage, once they hit that 300 mark, they're not going to be able to get to any more than that, even though they're trying to use 450. So that's the difference, is now it's a more of a pooled thing versus a per user thing. It still is license count specific, though. So I have 100 Copilot users. My organization gets a total number of AI credits. And then as I reduce my user count, my number of allocated AI credits goes down. Increasing my user count gives me more AI credits in the organization bucket. So what are your next steps as a business? Set up budgets. You can set up per user budgets. You can set up budgets on a billing unit level. You can set up budgets for the entire enterprise, the organization. Set up your budgets. Number 2, educate your users. This is a big change. That's why we're having this conversation today. Make sure they understand this is a big change. That's why we're trying to push this out there as much as we are. And then just kind of prepare yourselves, if you're the organization admins or whatever, prepare yourselves for kind of a changing cost model with the current usage estimates, because yeah, this is going to drive a lot of change with how things are used. And this is kind of how we're looking at it, is setting up a user-based budget thing first, then team or department-based budgets using billing units within GitHub, setting up a total enterprise level budget, and then linking their own budgets through like cost centers. Cost centers is what I was thinking of, not billing units. And then also like Azure subscription level things, so you get like consumption level things, because you can send cost centers to separate Azure subscriptions for billing. What do universal level budgets look like? In GitHub, I'll show you what our NFR organization looks like, because I don't want to show you, well, I can't show you what our actual stuff looks like. That would be bad. But in my NFR enterprise, I have a universal per user budget for $500 each. So that means that every user in here can use a total of, and I know right now it says premium requests. That's going to change June 1st. That means that every user individually can use $500 worth of AI tokens in this enterprise. I have 2 total users that are qualified here. Once those users hit $500, they're cut off. That's this whole stop usage thing. So now I've kind of set that budget level for them. And I can set that number to whatever we want here. I know, again, this is premium request. It's going to change. But say, for example, I know that my organization is going to use, we're going to have the $70 worth of tokens, right? What I would do is, if I want to have 0 overage, you would set this to $70 per user. So once they hit that $70, they're cut off. If you want to allow people to go a little bit over that, you would just set that budget amount. And then what it will do is allow them to go over their allocated token amount. Just know this is at the enterprise level per user. You can also then set a budget at the enterprise level. So in our case here, we have an enterprise and our budget amount is 0. We don't want any of our people using licenses from this NFR. However, if we wanted to say have a budget amount of, $1,000 per month, we could do that. So we can limit it per user, we can limit it the enterprise, and we can actually go into cost centers as well. And you can do it by cost center. So like in our organization, in here, I have cost centers set up by regions. So if I look, I have 3 cost centers set up, and I could actually select a specific cost center and give a budget amount to that individual cost center. So the USA is only allowed to use $250, let's say. You're welcome, Americans. But make sure that you are setting these up so that way, and make sure that you're getting alerts as well for some of these, so that you aren't like surprised with a big monthly bill at the end, and that you understand when you're approaching your thresholds. It also just prevents like one bad actor from exhausting the entire pool. And I don't know why I have 2 slides on this. Oh yeah. The other thing, I forgot to do this. The other thing is make sure that you're looking at your PRU data that's being used. We actually built a dashboard. We actually built a dashboard that we can see what the PRU usage looks like. GitHub also added AIC data into that. It's already there, so you can kind of see what that looks like. And because I forgot to show you guys that, I will show you that now. This is our current premium request usage dashboard. It is a tool that is available to be used. It doesn't have any of our data in it. Feel free to take a look. And we can actually submit a CSV file into that, and we can see what our current usage looks like. None of your data is getting uploaded to us. Just know that. But now I can see like what is my request usage on a PRU level. And then therefore I can see, so here's like my total requests and all that. And I can actually then see who are my, say, power users. Like I can see that I've got 46 users here that are exceeding their quotas, just as an example. And then who are my worst users? And it will by default anonymize the usernames. If you want to see actual usernames, you can do that. I anonymize these usernames as well. These are not actually real usernames, but I know who this one is. Haha. But this is a good tool just to kind of help you estimate where are you right now on your usage. And again, here's your estimated like AI credit usage. We did update this to show estimated AI credit usage on a day-to-day basis or a weekly or a monthly basis. And this is an export from of the Copilot usage statistics in our organization. So by the way, we do use a lot of Copilot here. Where are my slides? Here we go. So yeah, set up your budgets, educate your users, and prepare for kind of changing model usage, and just a change in how things are being used within Copilot. What do we mean by educate your users? I kind of alluded to this, but number one, use the right tool and the right model for the right job. Not everything has to be run through Opus. A lot of things are perfectly good to run through Haiku, or the less powerful models like GPT-5 Mini or GPT 5.3 Codex. You don't need to always utilize all of your MCP tools for every chat. Using MCP tools utilizes tokens because you have to send a request, receive a request back, and process it agentically. That utilizes tokens to do. Long conversations, more context, more tokens per turn in the conversation. So trying to go from these like really long prompts and long conversations to shorter conversations, but more direct conversations. Avoiding big waits before the next turn in the conversation. Big waits before the next turn in the conversation sometimes turns into caching, and caching consumes tokens because you're doing processing and they have to go somewhere and they have to figure out how to cache things. Don't add massive log files to your session because, again, that's input tokens. One of the things that I saw an organization doing is they had an agentic workflow that was analyzing the entire build log to figure out if the build succeeded or failed, and then figure out and then try to suggest a fix for the build failure. And the optimization for that was build the application deterministically, figure out where the error is deterministically in the log file. Usually those are sent to the standard error log stream. So just use that, send that into the model, or into the model, and then ask the model to then help you with how to fix that. It cuts down on token usage a lot because you're no longer having the model process, okay, what failed? You're giving it a little bit more direct context. Same thing with like adding large screenshots and stuff like that. All the things that we've kind of been taught are good to do for the last little while. It's an adjustment. Sorry, the pendulum has to swing back the other way a little bit. And again, avoid too much context. Give the model the context it needs. Don't overwhelm, which is a good practice in general. But somebody actually came up with an idea of how to shrink down the amount of text or amount of tokens being consumed going to and coming back from the model by having the model speak like a caveman. And it sounds stupid, and it works. And even when the model is reasoning with itself, caveman moding it is actually helpful. So it's a lot about efficiency. And that's kind of the big thing. So set up budgets. We went over that. Educate your users. Kind of just talked about that. Yes, big change. Step 3 is prepare for this with your current usage estimates. And we would not be a technology consulting firm if we did not have a nifty tool to show you guys to help you guys prepare with a cost estimate for the future and some optimization tooling. So let me show you that, because why not? I will also link this in the chat here in just a second, but here's a tool that we customized the GitHub Copilot pricing calculator. We maintain this. GitHub kind of released their own, and then we took it and ran with it. If you need help with this, by the way, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to help you out with this. Let me go ahead and drop this in the chat now before I forget. Cool. So that same CSV file that I from the premium request usage report, which is available through GitHub, is the same one that I'm going to upload here. And yes, there's a lot of blue boxes, but basically right now our current billing for this sample file would be about $5,170 per month on the PRU scale. And if we kept going the way that we were, we would be at 12,000 for the promotional period and 15,000 for the future. These are not like totally real numbers, just FYI. I excluded a bunch of licenses from this, but this is what it would look like going forward. And you can even see here, like, what is the discount, how many AICs are included with the current licenses and that kind of stuff. And then there's also recommendations that we can make for you to kind of adjust how your Copilot seats are allocated here. So for example, I want to figure out post-September, if I upgraded 208 seats to Copilot Enterprise, it would still cost the same, but it unlocks all the Copilot Enterprise features. So you're actually not paying anything more utilizing the Copilot Enterprise seats there. During the promotional period, it's a little different. You want to have a bit of a mix. And so the optimal mix that we determined is 32 business seats and 204 enterprise seats for cost optimization to save about $3,500 a month. This is all being done in browser. We're not harvesting your data or anything like that. This is all in browser being done, so no worries there. The other thing that you can see is a per user dashboard. So you can kind of see who all of your power users are, like who would be consuming the most AICs here. And maybe those are some users that you go, okay, why? And so then you start diving into how is that user using Copilot? And are you doing some good model optimization here? Like I can see this user is using the heck out of Opus 4.7. Do you really need to always use Opus 4.7? Usually no. That's a good educational opportunity for that user. And you can kind of see that. You can also see usage by product, daily AI credits consumed by model. So they're still actually using more of their credits on Sonnet 4.6. Maybe consider a less expensive model or something like that. And then you can see this user all of a sudden back in middle of April decided to start using Copilot, and costs go way up, of course. But we can see all of that stuff again in browser. The other cool thing that we built into this is a Monte Carlo simulation. So we're going to run about 1 million simulations projecting a 30-day month, each consuming 30 random days for every user's observed AIC usage, and trying to figure out what would this actually look like. It does take a minute. I'm just going to show it to you now. Again, this is all in browser. So like we're not sending your data anywhere to do this. This is all happening in the browser. It does take a minute. So again, we're running a whole bunch of simulations on what would your usage-based billing cost be given like randomizing utilization per user, and then kind of giving a distributed outcome as a bell curve. And based on this, we have a pretty good size standard deviation. But we can see here, like, the average 30-day spend would come out to about that $15,000 mark. The 96 per 90, the P95 here would be like 16 and a half. But the average is going to be about that 15,000 mark. At our lowest, we found 11,000, etc. And this is all post promo, by the way, pricing. So we're going to help you guys try to, with this tooling, try to get there with, like, where are you currently to kind of plan for it. And then as you optimize, that number would, would obviously go down. So this tool is available for you. Links in the chat. And with that, I always like to save a little bit of time at the end. So I'm going to pause for a minute. If anybody's got any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll get to you. I see, Dane, you've got a question here.
Yeah, so you've been encouraging the use of auto, and you talked about the 10% discount associated with auto. In the my question is, what is auto optimized for? Given like that the sort of the biggest factor of cost seems to be the model that you select, and then auto is selecting the model for you, what is auto optimized for?
Auto mode, it's complicated. So it's going to choose a model based on the cost of the model, availability of the model, and obviously, is it enabled in your organization? Because you can also, disable certain models. But that's kind of what it's optimized for. It doesn't select. It actually doesn't even support everything right now for auto selection. I think there's only 3 or 4 models that it'll select between. But that's what it is optimized for. It's basically going to be cost of the model and availability.
So cost of model meaning that it'll pick the lowest cost model based upon availability?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And it's also going to depend a little bit on your prompt too. GPT 5.3 Codex is showing a lot of good versatility. So what I'm seeing is auto mode is kind of biasing towards GPT 5.3 Codex right now. But like if there was an outage for GPT 5.3 Codex, it would probably fall back to, and I'm purely taking a guess here, that it would probably fall back to like Sonnet 4.6 or something along those lines. And again, it's a good thing to just experiment with, and your mileage may vary. You may find that the model that it selects doesn't give you the output that you want. And at that point, use a different model at that point. Unfortunately, they're not all created equally. Okay, I'm gonna butcher your name, and I'm sorry. Hasmukh?
No, that's fine. I just wanted to understand. It's like, you mentioned about the cost controlling, training the users, which model to use it and all that. Is there a plan to filter the model on specific role-based, groups-based, so we can make sure that certain people will get access to Opus? We don't want to give access to Opus to everyone on that. Is that something controllable at this point of time? I don't think so.
I don't believe so. I know it's available at the organization and enterprise settings. I don't believe it's a per user setting.
Okay.
Yeah. And then but what you can do is control the overall cost per user, and then it's up to the user to be responsible with what they're doing. So if I only give a certain user, $30 worth of AI credits, and they use all $30 worth of AI credits, and I've cut them off, and that was because they were using the most powerful model ever possible to do something that they didn't need to do that for, then they need to get that at some education there around like what models are good for what things. And I believe GitHub has a model comparison chart available that kind of is like, what is each model sort of good for? What does it excel at? And then they've got further reading links for every model as well. So that might be a good first step to kind of point users towards.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so we're at time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So again, thanks everybody for being here. I know this is a lot to process, so feel free to reach out to us if you do have any questions. I see Brooke is on the call. Brooke, do you want to jump in here?
I can, yes. So you should get an email just with basically a summary of all of this, a recording link, and a few other just tips and tricks that Matt mentioned on the call, and then just some contact details if you want to follow up at all with any of us Xebians.
Awesome. Yes, please reach out to us if you have questions. We're more than happy to answer. And yeah, as I said, I'm Matt, and this was an update on GitHub Copilot's usage-based billing. Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Have a great rest of your week and have a good weekend.